Support for this podcast comes from Wild Turkey Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Let's tune in to their one-on-one with Jamal, a real bartender from Old Fourth Ward in Atlanta.
I really get into the backstory of whatever I'm pouring, out of respect. There are literally years of experience behind these bottles. Wild Turkey, same recipe since 1942. If you want a true classic, this is what you want to order.
Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey Distilling Company, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Copyright 2020, Campari American, New York, New York. Never compromise, drink responsibly.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today I talked to assistant running backs coach Jennifer King. I enjoyed this conversation because it wasn't just about her being the first black female assistant coach, though that obviously was discussed. I'm interested in how she went from being on a path to coaching at a high level of basketball to then joining a different sport altogether. She chose the harder route. Why? You'll learn from her background why this is probably the route she wanted to be on all along. Also, we talked about Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, and even Peyton Barber, and more. I enjoyed the conversation. Before we get to that, a reminder that you can read my work on ESPN.com. You can also now follow me on Instagram at JohnKeimESPN. I have multiple stories up now on ESPN.com about Taylor Heineke, another on Alex Smith, and what could be next in his future, as well as one on the cheerleader settlement. A couple things here. The settlement was reached before the end of last year, so there is no correlation between the pausing of the program and the settlement. Also, the band was paused as well. I was told by multiple people that they expect both the cheerleaders and the band to return after they start the rebranding process. As for Heineke, his 2-year deal is worth $8.75 million. He was scheduled to be a restricted free agent, so if he had received a first-round tender, which he wouldn't have, it would have cost about $4.4 million. So this is basically double that amount. To give you perspective, here are what some backup quarterbacks will make this season. Case Keenum is at $7.3 million. Chase Daniel, $5.3 million. Marcus Mariota, $10.1. Chad Henne, $1.625. Jeff Driscoll for Denver, $3.25. Last year, Tyrod Taylor made $7.5 million. Andy Dalton was at $3 million. Nick Foles was at $6.7 million. I want to see the breakdown of the contract before saying much about the full impact and where it goes with incentives. And there are incentives built in if he does end up starting, as there should be. Otherwise, it's really what it is it's good backup money, but not great, but good. Okay. Kyle Allen is an exclusive rights free agent, so he'll be back, and he won't be expensive. My understanding is that his recovery from the ankle injury is going well, and he's on track to return, I believe, in the spring. Bottom line is, if Washington had a more expensive starter, you're not keeping both Allen and Heineke at comparable money. What the Heineke signing, I think, signals to me is that they probably won't be spending a ton of cap space on another quarterback this spring, or this season, I should say. If Alex Smith returns, he would almost assuredly do so at a lower cap figure. Right now, it's at $24.4 million. I think it'd be really hard to justify that one. And I know the team has been talking to him. I don't know if they're talking about that, but I know Rivera has been in communication with him. People I talk to in the NFL view Smith as a backup, so he really doesn't have much leverage unless he just wants to go somewhere else. I don't know that. But my point is, I don't know, if he wants to stay here, that's probably how it's going to have to be. If they trade for someone or even sign a free agent, it's not likely somebody with a high cap figure this year. So whether that's whoever it is, but with Heineke, Allen, and whoever the other quarterback is, whether it's Smith, Sam Darnold, Tyrod Taylor, Mitch Trubisky, whomever, they know they'll have 3 guys who they feel could play, and it really signals that they don't have one that they feel can play. But at least not yet. But between the 3, the investment won't be prohibitive by any means, and less than a lot of teams would be spending overall. If you have a quarterback who gets paid a princely sum, you're not going to have these kind of backup. You're not going to be paying this kind of backup money. Of course, what you want is a high caliber of play. But if you can't get your guy, then build up around them and then try again next year. I'm a big believer in striking when the guy you want is available and not kind of just trying to do this in a linear fashion. However, I'm also a believer in not forcing a move just to say you got a guy. Be patient, but aggressive. I do believe that's their philosophy as well. I've told you a few times that Heineke is viewed as a backup. His return does not change anything about their quest for another quarterback, nor should it. And you heard Ron Rivera talk about Heineke on my podcast last time. If you didn't, go back and listen to it, because he did talk about him. And he likes him, obviously. That's why he's here. That's why he got a 2-year deal. But you have to keep it in perspective here. I've talked to multiple personnel guys, coaches, and others around the league, and nobody views him any other way but then as a guy who was a good story, liked him, but he's a backup. And people in the building don't even, when I talk to them, don't look at it any other way. But he's a guy that now has a chance to compete. And there's really no other way you can look at it. He hasn't proven anything other than for one game he played well against a good team and guys respond to him. That's all good. That said, what he has earned is a chance, and if he balls out this summer, then he'll earn the job or at least become the primary backup. But to think the problem is now solved at quarterback and they should just build around him is a bit premature, maybe preposterous, but it's definitely premature. If you want to have faith in him, that's great. Enjoy the fact that he's back. You should do that. And perhaps it pays off, but you can't, what I'm saying is you can't assume it will, so you 1,000% must keep looking. Again, if he comes through and does stuff like that, that's all a bonus. Heineke said that he told us on a Zoom call that part of his appeal, he thinks, stemmed from players seeing how he works. He said that Chase Young, for example, would see him by himself in the locker room studying his playbook. Trust me, when guys see you studying and then going out there and balling out the way he did, you'll always win them over. When they don't see it and you don't play well, they'll support you, but they're not going to go hard for you at all. And we've seen that here as well. I now wonder what or who's next for Washington. As I've told you, they do like corner Ronald Darby. I get asked about him. He would like to return, but there hasn't been any talks yet there on another deal. Part of the issue is that a new front office just arrived, so now they have to not only figure out who they want to keep, front office coaches met on this last week, but they also have to decide what they want to spend and where. Heineke's deal was an easy one to complete. He earned the right to get that deal and to be here and compete for the job. We'll see where it goes from there. Regardless, it's a terrific story. Okay, well, that's enough from me. I'll be back after this break with assistant running backs coach Jennifer King. Why, in some ways, she was destined to be doing what she is now, and what it was like meeting Doug Williams for the first time. A cool moment.
We want the best of both worlds. We want a hybrid. A smarter hybrid cloud approach with IBM helps retailers manage supply chains with Watson AI while predicting demands with ease. The world is going hybrid with IBM. Visit ibm.com/hybridcloud.
Support for this podcast comes from McDonald's. What does a Sprite from McDonald's taste like? Many say it's electrifying. Others believe that refreshing first sip is the best part. But don't take our word for it. Let your taste buds make their own assessment. Get any size soft drink for only $1 on the McDonald's $1, $2, $3 menu. Go ahead, try a spicy Sprite, or enjoy a Coke, Diet Coke, Fanta, or Dr. Pepper. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any offer or combo meal.
Welcome back. Now here's my conversation with Jennifer King. Well, Jennifer, before I get into all the other stuff, because there's so much about coaching I want to talk to you about and players that you've coached, etc., I am curious, though, what have the last few weeks been like for you?
Oh, man, it's been crazy. A little unexpected, but, it's been cool to be able to chat with different people, though, so I've kind of enjoyed it.
Why did you feel it was unexpected?
I think for me, I'm kind of chill about everything, so I didn't really think about the magnitude of what it would do and, the opportunities it would present. So to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. So I didn't think everything would happen like this.
And that's probably why you're in the spot you're in, because you didn't realize what a big deal it was. And again, I want to get into the other stuff. I think, there's a lot to talk to you about, but I am curious, at what point did you realize, wow, this is even bigger than I thought?
Probably Good Morning America. That was kind of wild, and realized that, this is really a big deal. So I think that was kind of that moment when I realized, it was a lot bigger than I was thinking.
Well, because and you even told a story when Ron told you initially that he was going to make you a full-time coach, you just put your head down and went back to work. So,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I was in the middle of doing something. He came by the office and told me, and it was a short conversation, and I just kind of went back to what I was doing.
I mean, forget about the magnitude of what it means because for many females and all that, but just to go for, in any sport from an intern role to a full-time role, what did that mean?
I mean, I was a full-time intern, so I felt very full-time, the hours that we work. So, yeah, so I don't know if anything will change with that.
So you played softball and basketball, and you were coaching in basketball. You chose the harder route to get to a high level. Why did you? What appealed about this route to you?
I mean, I've always loved football, and I was happy coaching college basketball. I was successful, but when I kind of got a little taste of being able to coach football at a high level, I jumped to it. And I've been coaching football at some lower levels, middle school, high school. So it wasn't just like I started coaching football out of nowhere, but to have the opportunity to coach at higher levels really appealed to me, once I saw there were some possible opportunities.
And what appeals? Because again, there are a lot of sports you could have chosen. What did you like most about football? And it sounded like you grew up playing it too. This wasn't some new thing, but so what appealed to you about it?
Yeah, I don't know, because I started watching football at such a young age. 4 or 5 years old, I fell in love with football. So I don't. It's hard to remember why I started liking it so much. But I know probably just the physicality of it and all the strategies as I got older and start understanding scheme. Those are things I really fell in love with.
What's it like to go from coaching one sport, like to coaching basketball, to then coaching another sport? I mean, what things translate in terms of coaching?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more alike than people think, because the things that make you successful as far as building relationships and being really good at what you're doing makes you good at any sport that you're coaching. And, building those relationships have helped me be successful in football and, just being prepared to coach football. It's not something I hopped in not knowing anything about. So it was it was a lot easier, I think, than people would think.
And I think at the end of the day, I mean, a good coach is a good teacher, which should translate, correct?
Absolutely.
And what kind of things did you like? Was it different going from gender to gender? Is that different at all or not?
It really wasn't that difficult. And then when you're coaching at the, D1 and professional level, those athletes just want to be really good and they want to be coached. And that's all that matters to them is, can you build those organic relationships and just learn how to reach each and every one of them, because everyone's different, and find out their style of learning and then making them the best you can make them.
And you were also a police officer too. So you had not just deciding which sport you wanted to go, but also which profession. Why did you want to go from being a police officer to being a coach?
Well, I was coaching while I was a police officer. So, I left the police department when I got my head coaching job. So I had to make a decision then. But, I really enjoyed both. But, I'll take the hours of a coach over, staying up in the middle of the night, chasing after people as a police officer.
Yeah, yes. The pay can be a little bit better too, as I'm sure you can see. What about like with basketball? Did you have what kind of chances did you have to move up there that maybe you said I could do this and go this way and get a Division I job, but I want to take this chance? Like, did you have opportunities to move up there, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, I turned down 2 Division I assistant coaching jobs while I was coaching at Greensboro, just because to me it's all about fit. And, I didn't think it was the right move for me to make, even though it was appealing just because it was a Division I school, but I didn't fall in love with that. I was in a great situation at Greensboro. We're year in, year again, we're, battling for our conference championship and making it to the NCAA tournament. So, it wasn't something I was just going to walk away from.
And when you were in Carolina too, what are some of the things that you learned from coaching a guy like Christian McCaffrey that you could apply? And everybody's different, but what are some of the things you learned coaching him that you could apply here to, whether it's Antonio or JD or Peyton or whomever?
It's Christian's work ethic. He's not great by accident. He puts in so much work. He's always one of the first out at practice. And, he's wide open the whole time. It's not like he's the superstar, so he's going to kind of, go through the motions in practice. That's not him. So I think it's important to really share that with everybody, how hard he works, just to build that work ethic and how to be a pro.
And how would you, do you talk to guys a lot about that? Because, how much would you talk about that with these guys? Did you openly share that, or is it more something like once in a while? How often would you bring that up?
I mean, we would talk about it. I would bring it up some, and sometimes they would ask just because they're playing the same position in the same offense that he did. So
right.
How did he come so successful doing it? So there were questions, but that's the thing with our group. We have a young group, so guys are really anxious to learn and to be better, which is really cool.
And with a guy like Antonio, what are some of the things that you worked with him on throughout the year that maybe more so than something else? What were some of the little things that you would work with him on?
I think the biggest thing with a lot of the young guys is just how to be a professional. How do you prepare each week? Because the season gets really long, and if you don't have the proper preparation, sometimes the season will catch up with you as far as just, your treatment and how you prepare for the game plan and doing those things. And I mean, Antonio was fantastic, and he really made a lot of strides in his rookie season.
And as far as like the preparation stuff, how did you see him alter his approach, or maybe even just add to his approach, or however you wanted to define it?
Yeah, just putting extra time in and, learning how to navigate the iPad to find everything that we have as far as extra work that they can do at home, or, watching extra film, how to watch film. And, he always had good questions. And I think, when he saw him take off kind of in the middle of the season, I think a lot of that was, his habits and preparation, kind of translating to the field.
He also had to learn a lot to play that position. And I always felt like he was a guy that was hurt a lot by not getting that preseason, just to learn how to run with it to his pad level, right? And learning how to, cut and, how to read the blocks and all that. How much did what are some of the little things you saw him improve at that made a big difference? And in addition to that preparation, just on the field, what are some things?
Yeah, just really understanding, the running back position, understanding the runs, trusting that, this block is going to be there, even though you may not see it initially. And I think that's when running backs get really good, when they understand what you're trying to do. And, just because this person isn't blocked right now, someone's coming. And, trust your track, and trust the play.
When did you see him when did you see that start to click for him?
I mean, he flashed early, just because he's such an amazing athlete. He's so gifted and talented athletically that he was able to hop into a position that he hadn't played at the NFL level, which was crazy to me. But, I can't remember a specific moment, but you just start seeing him getting better and better every week. His production went up, and, he ended up being really fun to watch and coach. Yeah,
and what about JD? What again, he seemed to be somebody who was like kind of ready to blossom in the role he was in, given his progression throughout his career. But what are some of the little things that you learned about him and that made him have a good year?
Yeah, I think, JD, he's not the biggest guy, but he's a dog, man. Like, he's not afraid to run the inside runs or try to run the tough runs, which is something that really surprised me. Just, he was also a receiver. So to really be able to run those tough runs, his understanding is so good of the game and the position. And, me and JD worked a lot just in the pass game, because that was one of the areas he was big for. So, we threw and caught a lot of balls and just worked on some nuances and how to get open and things that we might be seeing each week.
And you have a background of coaching receivers for Arizona in the AAF, correct?
Yeah, and I work with receivers on it too.
Right. So how did that help you work with JD? What are some of the things that you learned there that helped him, that you felt like that you were working with him here that helped him?
Yeah, it's, getting open in the NFL is all about the little things. Everybody's fast, everybody can run and strong, but so it's the little things and really just reading tendencies as far as, how you're going to beat a person each and every week. Someone always has a way to get beat, and it's kind of our job to find it and then share it with our guys and make sure they're comfortable and know their matchups, going into the week.
And I remember when Chris Thompson was here, he spent some time one offseason. It wasn't a lot of time, but it was enough time to get himself to work on to learn how to get open. He would work with the receivers to learn how to get open. So he would talk about learning how to set up a guy and and all that. So how did JD improve there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he improved in the air. He's so quick, and it's always, I think, with guys, who are quick like that, it's important not to always be quick, because if you're always quick, everyone's always going to be moving at full speed. But learning how to set them up and then use your quickness for separation, I think was big for him. And I mean, he caught 80 balls this year, so that's really good.
It's funny you say that, because again, I go back to Chris Thompson, because similar role, right? And one of the things he did talk about was learning how to be more patient and not having to go as fast as you can every play, because sometimes that patience, you've got to wait for another guy to make his move to then open it up for you on the backside, right? I mean, little things like that, it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, once you learn that, even with the amazing athletes in the NFL, there are a lot of people who don't want to cover JD from the linebacker position one-on-one. So, they're already a little bit nervous. And then when you're able to really use your quickness against them and make them feel even more uncomfortable, that's how you create separation. Yeah,
and what about Peyton? I mean, being basically a short yardage back most of the year, what did you take away from his season?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was super impressed with him just being such a great leader. Obviously everybody wants to play more, but he really accepted, the role that he had. And, anytime we needed a yard, Peyton got us 2 or 3. And that's huge, in the NFL. And, I mean, he did a great job on special teams. And I think that really shows how much of a professional that he is. He was a huge, presence in our room.
And how so? Like, what are some of the things in the room that he would do or say that kind of show that?
I mean, he just, Peyton's one of those guys. He always asks the right questions, and, he's very organized and knows what's going on, and just being supportive, just because he's had a few years under his belt. So he was very supportive, of our guys in the room.
What did you learn from the short time that you had with Adrian Peterson?
Oh, AP is like a pro's pro. I love working with AP. Just to be able to work with a legend, and right. His work ethic is just as hard as I would expect it to be. And I had a lot of fun working with him.
Another guy that I was curious about, because I read a story that one of the players that you admired most or, gravitated most growing up was Doug Williams. So what was it like for you meeting him?
It was crazy just to meet Doug and now, have a relationship with Doug. He's great, man. So much knowledge and just experience. And, anytime I get to chat with Doug, it's always exciting.
And, it's funny because somebody asked him about that, and he said that he didn't realize just, your, I guess, the affection for him as a player, whatever, as a person, because you kind of concealed that. When you meet him, what do you like inside? What is that like? Because, like if you grow up and meet an idol, it's always kind of a big deal. So do you remember that moment? Do you remember what you were thinking when you were talking to him?
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those moments, you're standing there just talking, having a normal conversation, but on the inside, it's like, man, this is Doug Williams I'm talking to right now. We just, hanging out. So it was, you have that going on inside, but you're trying to stay present, in the moment in the conversation. And now, like I said, me and Doug, we have a good relationship. He's a great guy.
And he's made such an impact. Why do you feel like that he just had, being around him and haven't been able to get to talk to him, like he's a really easy guy to talk to, and he's just a person that everybody that I know likes. Why do you feel like a guy like that can have such a long-term impact, not just that Super Bowl win, but he's still in a position to impact people, and then now this franchise? Why do you feel that he's been able to do that?
Yeah, I think you hit it. He's a great person, that takes you a long ways. And our guys, obviously they know what Doug did for the organization and the career that he had, but he's just a really good person. He's super easy to talk to, so much experience in so many areas. So, having someone like Doug around is huge for our team just because we're super young too.
Absolutely. And he also was somebody who was a first black quarterback drafted first round, first black quarterback to play and then win a Super Bowl. Can you relate to anything that he went to, being the first black female full-time assistant coach? Is that a bit of a stretch?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a stretch just because, what he did and was able to accomplish was just incredible. And in that era as well, that was an era where it still wasn't very cool to have black quarterbacks. And,
right.
So for him to do that is it's unbelievable. And he was also, he was one of those first people that I saw, as a black athlete on TV, like playing the quarterback position and doing those things.
And you also played quarterback too.
Yeah, it was just kind of ironic.
Okay, it wasn't because what did you like about playing that position?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it just because I always wanted to be a receiver and I always worked out with receivers, but just, I grew up playing softball, so I had a good arm, and
Okay.
then my knowledge of the game, just having those two things always just kind of fell into the quarterback spot.
So when you were growing up playing football, were you like, did you guys always play in it? Is it a neighborhood games and all that? Like, what was it like for you with that?
Yeah, playing in the neighborhood, playing at school, we played a lot. So it was a lot of football. I had a lot of games under my belt probably before I was about 12 years old.
Well, I asked that too because I grew up on a street where you played a lot of football. I was one of the younger ones. The younger ones seem to go on and do bigger things with certain things. Were you one of the younger ones in that group that, it seems like that leads to sometimes higher achievers, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because we were all kind of the same age, like literally
Okay.
all the kids in the neighborhood within like 2 or 3 years of each other. But I did have an older sister, and I think, that definitely is the case with that because I was always going to her games and, or practices or something, just always watching her. And I always wanted to, to be better and to be good. And that's how I knew I had that kind of extra drive.
And when did you ever think about being involved in the NFL, for example, at that age? When did you dare to dream that?
No, I was much older when I thought about that, just because, I talk about representation, and
Right.
I didn't see, like, why would I even dream about that when no one looks like me in the NFL? So,
Right.
so I didn't think about that until, I was, an adult coaching college basketball. I was a head coach coaching college basketball when I kind of got those aspirations.
And what do you feel has made you a good coach? What qualities?
I think one of the best things with me, which I learned early on in my coaching career, was just how to communicate, how to teach with the players, and the relationships I've built have been huge as far as as you said, teaching, because I know you can't teach everybody the same, and everyone's different, and building a relationship to let them know that you care about them. It's not just the sport. You can have a 30-minute conversation and we don't even talk about the sport. We just talk about how things are going in life and, things they want to do after football. So to be able to really organically build those relationships, I think have been huge for me, just because it kind of builds a lot of trust with athletes.
So, and that's what I was going to ask you. When you can connect with that, how does that help you then when you're dealing with them on the field?
Yeah, well, you know how to communicate with them. You know what reaches them and what doesn't. And what tone of voice may not work for this person that'll work for another person. And it's all about knowing them and getting a message through. And that's the cool thing about working in the NFL. Everybody's so good and, want to be even better. So being able to share nuggets and help them out is really cool.
And how, to get to Antonio, how different is he from JD? And were there some little tricks or things that you learned to say, okay, Antonio, how would Antonio like to be coached versus JD? And how would you get to one versus the other?
Yeah, Antonio's a younger guy, so you got to know, I don't have to yell at any of them because they're professionals, which is
Right.
cool. And obviously dealing with some of my kids in college, my tone had to be a little more stern
Yeah.
than these guys. But, they want to know, how can they be better, or how what happened on the play that, how can it be better next time, or, anything like that. And just to have that relationship where I can tell them or show them and, we move on from it. And it's important to move on just from the NFL. And that's one of those things we have to learn, with some of our guys, just being able to move on from situations.
And the other thing too, that I was wondering, Jennifer, too, when you have a new coach or you come in from, from a different level, guys seem to want to test coaches. You're coming from a different sport. Put aside the fact that you're female, but you're coming from a different sport. How, they may not know all your background. So did you feel that they ever tested you and that you passed these tests? You're not even here, but when you first started doing it, did you ever encounter those kind of situations?
No, I think the biggest test I have, or have had is really just, what you can get away with, what you can't get away with, that's always going to be there as a coach. But, and I think the funniest thing is just the jokes, if they say a joke, am I going to say something back or how I'm going to take it? That's always the thing I think is funny, especially working with guys, they clown you on
Right.
something. Are you going to fire it back? And, I grew up in a household where, we clown each other all the time. So I'm quick to fire right back if someone says something.
So how many siblings?
Yeah, I just have one older sister, but my mom and dad both have a bunch of brothers and sisters. So it was always a lot of people at family functions.
And where so you kind of develop a quick tongue that way, don't you?
You have to. If you're weak, you'll get eaten alive. My family.
I like I said, I was the fourth of five, and so you learn how to survive that way when you're young. And again, on our street, I was playing. We're playing sports with kids who are 5, 6 years older. At the time, you don't think twice about it. Then when I'm older, I'm thinking, they were putting me in goalie when we play hockey in the backyard or something like that, or kill the man with the ball. Like I'm playing, and like at the time you're just doing it and like, okay. And then later you're like, they really could have killed me. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up playing basketball with grown men. So, they throw you in the fire. And once they figure out that you're decent, they don't care that you're a little kid.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, but how much did that help you improve doing that?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, I think that's one of the things that made me so successful as an athlete and as a coach, was just having those experiences. When I was in high school, I played in the summer basketball league full of ACC, and SEC players, and I'm 16 years old. So, wow. I mean, you have to be better to be able to compete out there. And, just experiences like that just made you so much better as a player in person.
And what did you learn just playing for in professional football, DC Divas and in professional, what did you learn there that helped you even as a coach?
I mean, it's, you're just learning new things and everyone's different. So I think the personalities is the biggest thing of coaching. And I think sometimes it's not, people don't think it's important. It's just knowing every single person. And obviously playing women's football, there are a lot of personalities with a women's team. Sure. So how do you communicate with everybody?
Were the personalities stronger there or in professional football or in the NFL?
They're probably much more stronger than the men, which is hilarious. But I think sometimes it's tougher to communicate in women's football than the NFL.
That's kind of funny. You also played basketball in Australia. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was it was amazing to be able to see Australia and play some basketball and to experience a totally different culture while playing basketball was super cool. And you realize how much alike you are versus different. Just because you're on the other side of the world, they're still basketball players and still the same game, which was really cool.
Have you talked to Lori or MJ with the Bucks yet?
Oh yeah. I had been flooding them with messages leading up to the game just because I was so excited for them. And I had a chance to send MJ a message after the game, and I had a chance to speak with Lo yesterday.
Well, that was what is that feeling like? What did they say it's like to win a Super Bowl?
I mean, it's as unbelievable as you think it would be. I think maybe they still haven't realized how cool it is to win that game. Yeah, so happy for them.
And then just kind of wrapping up your story too, like. When you talked with us on Zoom, you talked about some little girls maybe reaching out to you or something like that. What have you heard from people since the news about you getting the full-time job? What is it? What have you heard from people? And maybe is there something that's kind of touched you the most?
Yeah, I mean, they continue to come in as far as people saying that their daughters saw a story about me or one of the other females in the league, and now they want to play football. They're interested in football, or just things like that. Just things that never would have happened if that representation wasn't there for them to see. So I think the coolest thing is now you can have girls growing up wanting to play football and coach football instead of having to do something else and then move into it later like we all did.
And is there a way, you talk about with Ron Rivera having reached back and people reaching back? Do you have plans to help do that, or how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always, open to give advice if people have questions and, help when I can. Sometimes I don't have the time to really do it, but, in the off season, I've definitely already, responded to some messages that people had. So it's important, to reach back. I'm here because somebody reached back, and a lot of my other coaching opportunities were because someone reached back. So it's only right to pay it forward.
How excited are you for even you guys, the way you guys finished the season and being part of this going forward, all that? how excited are you for what can happen this offseason, whatever you guys add, and then getting back to spring ball, training camp, and all that, and just to build on the momentum that you guys finished with?
Yeah, we set the bar high for ourselves, which is good, to have those expectations now. I think we came in last year, other than the people in our building, no one expected us to do anything. And,
Right.
to finish the way we did. And, we really set a lot of momentum for next season. But, it's the NFL. So what we did last year doesn't matter next season. So it's important to really use that momentum to get better and better. And, I'm excited. I'm ready to get back already. But,
I'm sure.
I think we have a really good chance to be really good next year.
Where would you as far as the player goes, where would you like to see Antonio take that next step?
Yeah, just continue to becoming a better back, and understanding all of the runs that we have, and just using his natural abilities to make those plays once he understands totally what's going on.
So, I want last thing here, Jennifer, and I appreciate you taking so much time out here, and I enjoyed talking to you. When you look at your background, you've coached and played different positions. What is your goal here in this industry?
Yeah, for right now, it's to be the best assistant running back coach I can be. But, I think, coach always talks about being where your feet are. And I think that's super important, in the coaching business, just to continue to grow where you are, and don't make too many plans ahead. You'll find yourself without a job. So, that's really what I'm focused on right now. And, we'll see what happens in a few years.
Very good, Jennifer. I tell my kids that the same thing, whatever industry they're in, that's always the most important thing. Focus on what you do and do it well, and people will notice and you'll move up.
Absolutely.
There you go. Jennifer, I appreciate you taking some time out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. It's been nice.
Question number 1. When is 10 Questions Season 2 available? The answer, right now. Hey, everybody. It's Kyle Brandt. I'm the host on 10 Questions. And Season 2 is available now. We have all kinds of new tricks, all kinds of new contestants. You can also go back and check out Season 1. The Matthew McConaughey episode, the Aaron Rodgers episode, Paul Rudd, every episode. You can listen, you can watch. It is 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt exclusively on Spotify.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Jennifer King for coming on, and also a shout out to Jesse Johnson from the Washington PR staff for lining it up. And thank you, as always, for listening. I'll be back Monday with another episode, taking a deeper look at some quarterback possibilities for Washington. Talk to you next time.